Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Raeann, but you can call me Ray. Today's video is super exciting. So I feel like I haven't bought anything from Lime Crime in a little bit now. So I was very excited to see this. This is so they did a smaller version of this and then a bigger palette. The smaller version was released on Ulta's website and their website, and then this one was just on their website. So yeah, I actually didn't even know about it until I saw it on the smaller one on Ulta's website, and then I kind of looked into it, and then I found this one. So this is exciting. I just love their packaging so much. Like, I could probably just frame all of their palettes just for like the packaging because it's so beautiful. And this isn't even one of the like Venus palettes. Those ones are like immaculate, you know. The packaging on those is just absolutely like amazing. So anyways, this is basically their greatest hits bangers palette. I feel so not right for saying that word. I feel like it's just out of my generation. This is basically a collection of their most popular shadows. This is what it looks like. It looks absolutely stunning, so pretty. I love this row, by the way. Like, this row is definitely my favorite. I thought this row was, but when I was doing the swatches, this one is absolutely my favorite. This is kind of like one of those weird things where if you already have a lot of their palettes, you absolutely don't need this palette because it is a collection of their most popular shadows. I think they might have done like something on Instagram, or I don't know how they kind of figured out what ones were the most popular and what to include in the palette. But if you have a lot of their palettes, I'm sure you probably don't need this one. I only have a few, and there's some of them more new, like the newer ones. So I feel like what I have isn't really in here, and if it is, I don't think it's very many shades. Like, I have to look into it, but I feel like I might have like a couple of them, but definitely not a lot. So if you don't have a lot of their palettes, I feel like this is something that you could look into if you're interested in it. If you have a lot of their palettes, you probably don't need this. So this retails for $58 and includes 18 shades. So if you already have a lot of their palettes, you probably don't need this, but since I don't have a ton of them, I was super drawn to this palette. Let's go ahead and get into the swatches. So I already did this look and then I did the swatches afterwards. I'm trying a new like way of filming, and that's just kind of what made sense to me in this video. So let's go ahead and get into the swatches, and then we'll get into this look and how I feel about the palette. That's it for the swatches. Let's go ahead and get into this look. So I'm going to start with this shade right here, and then towards the inner to mid portion, I'm going to blend it out with this shade. The mid to outer portion, I'm going to blend it out with this shade. So now that you know like what shades I'm going to use, I'm just going to go ahead and just get into it. And then I will deepen up the look with a different shade too, since I am going to do like a little bit of a cut crease. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with that Muse shade. I used a bigger, like fluffier brush for this part too. So I am going to use the darker brown to kind of deepen this up later. And then in true Raeann fashion, I'm going to wing this out a tiny bit. Just kind of following the natural shape of my eye. Okay, so with a different brush, I'm going to go ahead and go into the shade Jam, one of the ones that I pointed to earlier. So I'm going to start with Jam and then go into Flora. And this is just going in like the inner portion to mid portion of the eye. The tones of these are actually a little bit closer than I thought they'd be, so they are definitely kind of blending into each other. So I'm going to pick up a different brush, one that's a little more angled, and then going into that Flora shade. So I'm going to start from the outer portion and then meet it into the inner corner. Or not the inner corner, but like the middle portion of my eye. And then dragging that below as well. Okay, so from there, I mentioned that I was going to go into a darker shade, so we're going to take this darker brown color. So this one right here. And then I'm basically just kind of deepening up what I already did, but I'm not bringing it quite as far out. And then I'll most likely have to go back into this shade to deepen the look back up later too. And then I'm just kind of keeping it in a tighter area than the first color I started out with, but keeping the same shape. And I probably could have started out with this shade, but I didn't realize that I needed something a little bit darker at first until after, so I'm just going to do everything in the order that I did in the first look to make sure everything looks as close as possible. So from here, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut out my crease, do a little bit of glitter primer, and then we'll go into the shimmer shade. Then I'll show you guys what else is after that. And then that's pretty much it for this look. It's actually fairly simple for the most part. Very similar to what I always do, like shape-wise. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other stuff, and then I will be back to show you guys. Okay, so now that I have the concealer down, we're going to go ahead and go in with the shimmer shade that I'm going to use. And I'm basically only using this one on the lid, and then I'm going to use another one for the inner corner, so I'll just show you both of them. So I'm going to go and take this shade for the lid. This is going to go basically all over until about the like outer portion where I'm going to start blending it into the matte shades, and then I'm going to take the shade next to it, this like more minty green color. That's going to be my inner corner. So let's go ahead and start by placing this down on my lid. And I did use glitter primer. So this is actually more of an iridescent color, but I thought it was really pretty. I thought it would be really pretty with the like more maroon and brown shades. I thought that would be really nice, because it was a tie between this one and then using that green shade instead on the lid, and like switching them, having the green on the lid and then having this one in the inner corner. But I actually really like this shade for the lid, and because we have the concealer over it, I feel like even though this is kind of more of a topper shade, it looks really nice still. Okay, and then what I do after that is I just take a flat brush and then I go into the shade again, just getting it closer, as close as possible to where the concealer ended, and just trying to get as much pigment on here as possible. It's not going to go all the way out to the edge of my lid, but just building that up the best that I can. Like for some reason it's not sticking in certain areas. Alright, well, I think it's just because this shade's kind of supposed to be more of a topper. We make our own rules here. Okay, so I'm going to go into that mud shade, so the darker brown shade, and I'm kind of just blending it in and then deepening up this area here. Alright, and then for the under portion of the eye, I'm going to go in with Muse. So the first shade we started out with, Muse, and then deepen this up with the brown shade. The brown shade's gonna basically go for the outer portion of the under eye to almost mid portion of the under eye. So starting in with Muse and just lightly running this under. And then I haven't done the inner corner yet, so I'll do that after this. Okay, and then we'll go into the shade Mud and just kind of deepen this up. Okay, and then from there, we're going to go into that inner corner shade, so that minty shade. So we're going to go into the shade Myth. Alright, so that's basically it. I'm gonna finish up the rest of the look. Probably just do some mascara and freshen up my face makeup real fast. And then I will be back to talk about the palette. Alright, so this is the finished look. I just put lashes on for literally the first time in so long. Like, I want to say months. Like, literally... You know what? That's a lie, because I totally put lashes on for my friend's wedding. But other than that, like, especially for a video, I have not done lashes in what feels like forever, and I used to not be able to not do lashes. Like, I just could not stand not doing lashes. So yeah, this is the finished look. I don't know, the application of the lashes are a little questionable, but we're just gonna go past that a little bit. But anyways, this is the finished look. So, I like this look. There isn't as much definition as I wanted there to be, because a lot of the shades are kind of, at least the shades that I used were kind of very similar to each other, like the coral shade versus the orange shade. It's a little hard to depict like what one's what. The orange shade didn't stand out as much as I thought it would. But other than that, like, I'm pretty happy with how this palette has performed. It's basically, I mean, I don't think any of the formula changed in any of these shades, and since they're already existing shades for Lime Crime, I wouldn't expect there to be like an issue with them. All of the palettes that I have of theirs, I feel like they're pretty consistent. The shimmer shades, I kind of wish there were like just a little bit more impactful ones in here. A lot of these shades I don't think I already have. I'm sure there's a few that I have, but I didn't have any of the like original Venus palettes. So that's kind of why I was okay with buying this palette, because I didn't have the other ones. So I'm sure there's a lot of shades in here that I didn't already own, and I could probably go through the ones that I have to see if there's any duplicates. There might be a couple, but a lot of the ones that I have are the newer palettes anyways, so I think a good majority of these are like from like palettes from like years ago. That's why I was like totally fine with buying this palette, because there's a lot of shades in here that I didn't already own of theirs, and from what I have of theirs already, I do like their formula. This shimmer shade is definitely more of a topper shade, but that's probably always how it's been, so it's like I probably could have chosen a different shade for my lid, but there's not really any complaints on my end. Like, I feel like this palette is basically exactly how I would think of their palettes would be. So the mattes are super easy to work with. I wish there was a little bit more definition in this palette. I don't remember exactly how they came up with the color story, but I think they kind of just did like polls on their story or something, and people just picked out colors. So I don't know if there was anything more in depth with how these shades were chosen, but with that being said, I wish there was a little bit more depth, but overall I do like the color story that was included in this palette. I honestly feel like I probably could have been okay with just buying the smaller version of this. I'm still overall pretty happy with it. There's not really any complaints. It performs the way that all of my other Lime Crime palettes perform. I think I have like 3 or 4 of them. So, you know, really no complaints. I like the color story of this in general. This I mean, their packaging is always perfect too. And then I like the fact that it has a bigger mirror. This is kind of a heavier palette, so you know, whether or not you want to apply using this mirror is totally up to you. If it wasn't for doing it in the video, I probably wouldn't be using it. But I do like the selection of colors they have in here. I'm excited to keep using it. I probably will do a 3 looks 1 palette, or maybe 2 more looks with this palette. I definitely want to use the more grungy tones, so that mustard color and that shimmer shade Pigeon looks really cool. I don't think I own that shade already. Again, that's something I'm gonna have to go through and see like what I own already. But like I said, I only have like 3 or 4 of their palettes, so I don't think I have too many of these shades. Not that I can remember at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Let me know what you want to see with this palette, if you even want to see another video with this palette or not. But that's it for today's video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.